Hello everyone, I'm Pani Coffee, and today's video guide will be all about painting. Now, as I said previously, you can leave the model as is. This would be fine on your shelf. If you're just collecting models and happy with the way they are, you can simply buff them a bit, but that's it. You can leave it this way if you don't want to paint. But if you want to take them to the next level, so with actual painting, either full painting or partial painting, so the basic painting method would be in two ways. So the first one would be traditional, so you can use brushes like this, so you have to paint them manually. That can take some time and some practice. But as a beginner, the simplest I can suggest is using colored spray cans such as these. These are a bit larger. This is from Vallejo. You also have Tamiya Color and AK Interactive. AK actually they have smaller cans. Obviously you'd have to spray outside or have proper ventilation indoors. You would choose a color for each part. Here for example I have this green over here. I'm probably gonna use this one. It matches it closely. And well, light gray for here. I'll have to find a match for that one, so I must have one more paint can with that, or I could just hand paint it. So you could do a combination of both, but for the dominant color, a spray can is always faster. I have this one with the drain. This is what we use for crafting and art stuff. We also use it for washing plastic parts. And just give it a scrub. So any old toothbrush or any scrubber that you have will be fine. It's simply to really remove any residue, really. So we prevent chipping. Wait.
2,000 years later.
Depending on where you live, if it's really dry where you live, then this should be dry in no time. Okay, so after washing, cleaning these parts, the most common method that you will come about is they disassemble everything. So if you were to paint the dominant green, you would also paint over this dark gray. So you can see how it can be very, well, annoying to disassemble each piece just to be able to paint separately. And the danger of this is actually you could risk losing these parts or getting confused where parts go to where because you're lost at what number. There's no number in the part itself. You have a couple of these alligator clips. The part you want to be painted is the outer layer. Inside we don't really care because nobody's gonna see that. So we can use that as our leverage for the clip to grab onto. You simply need something to mount your alligator clips that way. So the purpose of this is you grab one part and then you spray it completely, and then you leave it there to dry, and do the same for all the parts until you're done. Now you don't need to buy these kind of rolling stuff. This is just more convenient for me. A piece of styrofoam. Styrofoam really works well, or even a piece of cardboard. And the idea really is to spray by color batch. So for example, all the green parts, you put all the green parts in one base, and then all of your gray parts in one base, so you only have one color at a time. It's still the easiest way to get everything painted uniformly. And for example, put a sticker here, mark it as left arm or arms, so you have both arms in one base, so you don't get lost when you start to assemble them again. You don't get lost where a part should go. Now for the second method that I told you about, so me, I really I really don't like disassembling completely, at least not completely. So what I do is a lot of masking. Basically cover the parts you don't want to get painted. So you have some masking tape like these. Make sure to use something that's very low tack. So what I do usually is I only disassemble partially. For example, here it's easy for me to disassemble simply the kneecap. So when it comes off, that's about the joints too. You don't need to paint these joints. Don't ever do it because you are going to have a hell of a time moving the parts. Yeah, so this is the liquid mask. You know, like visors, anything that's glass. You can use a toothpick and you simply spread out the excess masking fluid. Yeah, that's fine. So as a beginner, I would suggest to simply disassemble everything like so, and you put them in alligator clips like this. So as I said previously, if you have any kind of masking, shouldn't leave it for too long. So with an X-Acto knife or any sharp hobby knife that you have, you can simply scrape off the sides of that. There we go. Pristine. These had to be gray, so I'm gonna pick something similar to our box art. It's about that kind of gray. Let's fill up these pieces. You see, now that we have a primer, it's so easy to apply consequent paints on top. You see, the paint consistency, it shouldn't be too watery, otherwise it won't stick. Not too thick either, or else you're gonna create some irregularities, you know, bumps on the paint job. So here, we can break up this dark gray and add some variation. It does require a bit more accuracy when you paint it in one piece, but don't try to go back and repaint if it's still wet. Leave it dry before applying a second coat. Otherwise you're going to destroy the first layer and it's gonna look all patchy and ugly. So now our Leo is really coming to life. Probably this afternoon I'm gonna varnish it and then we'll proceed to weathering and panel lining. Okay, so we're done varnishing. I actually wished to go outside. It was quite cold and humid, and it's not really advisable to use any kind of spray can outside if it's humid and rainy. But I kind of didn't have a choice, so I just went with it. If you see anything that looks like a lump, just leave it. Once it's completely dry, you can actually sand it off. So now we can assemble this back. So to show you what a matte varnish could look like, it's something like this. So you see it's very matte, very rough. And here we have a bit of both worlds, you know, just the right amount. It looks more realistic that way. But I'm not really going to use this because, for one, I don't have white spirit anymore. It's really simple. You simply apply them where there are recesses. So for example, here on the knee, you have these 4 panels the 4 round panels. So you get a bit more definition. So this one is not as fluid as you would get with enamel. It's like tracing all of the lines. So it doesn't matter if we go over slightly because we can always clean up with water later on. So basically you'll need some Q-tips. So you dip that in either water or white spirit, depending on what you're using. For me it's water, simply. So the tip doesn't need to be too soaked in water or white spirit, otherwise you're going to remove everything. So it's just damp. If it feels too dry, you add a bit more. It makes the panel more realistic, doesn't it? Okay, so now that we've panel lined everything, you can clearly see a change. I mean, our model looks more realistic than it was when we first built it, doesn't it? So by panel lining, you can get back that contrast from, as opposed to just a flat color. So if you went this far in my beginner plastic modeler guide, you are armed with the basic knowledge that you need to further explore this wonderful hobby. So just enjoy it, you know, don't forget that this is a hobby, so don't forget to have fun, because if you're starting to treat this like work, trust me, you're not gonna have fun. You're gonna hate building and painting. So always remember that this is a hobby. This is supposed to relax you, not stress you out. So in episode 4, we're gonna integrate everything that we've learned from the previous episodes, and I'll give you some bonus tips. So anyway, thanks again for watching. If you've got any questions, comments, put them in the comments below. I'll see you guys next time on episode 4. See ya.